Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Lorianne VAUGHN Speaks. I love that name, Lorianne Speaks, because it's just the perfect name for someone who helps people propel their speaking businesses. Lorianne Speaks. Lori is an expert in the area of speaker-author support. She amplifies the visibility of authors, speakers, and messengers while they do what they love, speak. Lorianne has helped spearhead multiple best-selling campaigns by editing, proofing, and taking books all the way to launch and helping provide social media marketing campaigns to help authors create buzz and momentum throughout the social media platforms and helping to increase their message worldwide. Lorianne and her team have made it their mission to empower speakers to deliver their message by handling the rest of the business details. That's so vital, handling the rest of the business details. Prior to starting her own virtual assistance company, Lorianne had more than 15 years of professional experience supporting top 100 thought leaders as they built their businesses. Lorianne is developing a blog following and offers podcasts regarding virtual support for authors, speakers, and small businesses. Welcome, Lori.
Thanks so much, Tammy. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is really exciting, and the reason is because I actually wrote a book called Beyond the Bestseller. So I'm really excited to learn more about your services and how you help people with podcasts or with books or with their speaking businesses go beyond, beyond the stage, beyond the bestseller, beyond the book, beyond the podcast, because it's so important that people understand that there is a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on. But before we get into that, because I know you actually have 4 support areas that are really important that you can really go a little deep on. Tell me a little bit more about how you got started, because you actually got laid off at age 60.
I did.
How did you handle that?
Very nicely, no. It was very scary, especially here in Los Angeles, which happens to be the youth capital of the world. And it became painfully obvious that corporate America did not want a 60-year-old employee, which I find silly, but that's a whole nother topic. So I realized if I wanted to continue to work, I needed to start my own company. And that's exactly what I did. And so instead of just getting to support one very good thought leader, I get to help multiple speakers, authors, and podcasters as they grow their businesses. And we do that in a myriad of ways. It really depends on my client and what their pain points are and how we help.
So you created a virtual assistance business. Why did you choose that over all the other things that you could have created?
Well, because I knew that this is my skill set, that I call them my superpowers. I'm a very detailed person, very organized. And so that's what I always did best, was keeping people organized, and like with my past boss, making sure that she had all her travel, logistics, everything was done. So all she had to worry about was giving her speech. Everything else was taken care of, including follow-up and debriefs and, getting the lists of people, whether it's a webinar or whatever she may have done. and making sure her CRM was up to date. So it really, I looked at, what were my saleable skills, which I think we all have to do, and take it from there.
It's interesting because I think about my different skills, and I became what I call self-employed in 2009. But what you brought up something very interesting, talking about, when you are someone who is a speaker or an author and you're trying to do it all yourself, and all these little details slip through the cracks if you don't have somebody helping you. Before I get into asking you more directly about the different support areas that you really focus on, can you tell me a little bit more about your business model and how you go about choosing the women that you have working with you as part of your team?
Yes, part of my mission is actually to help other marginalized women such as myself, those of us that have been laid off in our late 50s or 60s and still have amazing skills to offer, as well as young moms who really want to stay at home with their kids but need to help out with the family finances. And so I, just as I am 1099 from my clients, I 1099 with these women to help them, with getting themselves some work, and yet helping, I know that when I was a young mom, I worked from home. Though I was a full-time employee, I worked from home before it was ever even a thing. And so I know what can be done at home with the right kind of person. And so I make it a point to help out these women when I am in need of some additional support myself. Just as I tell my clients, you can't do everything yourself. If you're spending 40% of your time on administrative duties, you need to hire yourself a VA. It's the easiest way to keep within your own budget, but it allows you to scale your business. And that's exactly what they allow me to do.
I think that's really interesting because so many people, and I think it's women more than men, and I may be wrong, but this is my personal experience, seem to have a hard time delegating different tasks. And they may be like, I'm somebody who I recognize that, hey, I can go out and I can come back with 50 to 100 or more leads to follow up with. And then what happens, I get bogged down in trying to just input them. Let's say that I got people to fill out a piece of paper and they said, yes, I'd like more information. I bet you I have left thousands of dollars unearned because of my lack of timely follow-up. How could a good VA or virtual assistant help someone, and how do you find and train that person? Because that's another thing. You might find a virtual assistant, but how do you train them? How do you work with them? How do you get them to operate, especially if you're working virtually so that
Right.
You don't really meet them or have that hands-on experience?
Well, in my experience, I work with people I already know. Because I was that office manager and assistant, I have a lot within my network of people that I know. But just as you were talking about, when you come home from a conference or whatever, and you've got anywhere from 100 to 500 business cards, while you're developing your email and marketing that you want to put out, you should be hiring a VA to do that data entry for you. It can be easily put into a CSV file, Excel to upload into your CRM, which I may be doing alphabet soup here, but if you have a database of clients, this is the best way to do it, because you're spending your time doing what you do best and devising your message while you have someone else do the data entry. And, I keep my VAs are all onshore within the U.S., just because it's a whole level of language that I don't want to have to deal with. That's not to say that Fiverr and quite a few of these other VA websites don't have people who can specialize in a project-by-project basis. But if you're looking for a VA to really be your right hand, I say hire very slow, but fire fast. You need to really look at someone who will also fit your personality. We don't take into consideration sometimes the soft skills and how important they are in being able to work with someone. And so the women that I choose, I happen to know and really like and trust to do what I need them to do.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So you work a lot with authors, speakers, messengers, people who are out speaking, and then you also are out on the speaking trail too, I guess is a good way to put it. What are, I was reading some of the background information, and you talk about the 4 support areas that everyone should be aware of and using a virtual assistant for. Can you tell me more about what those 4 support areas are?
Sure. I mean, very basically, you have all those administrative tasks, whether it's email support or scheduling, meetings and appointments, like I said, the data entry, and maybe even your travel, accommodations. Another area is that book support. So if you are writing a book and you want to get it out there, but you don't know quite how, we provide proofing and editing, page layout and design. We develop the endorsement coordination, launch plans, and the management of making sure that launch week is used to the best to get you to bestseller status. And then there's the ongoing marketing support, such as tweeting and things along that line to drive people to go take a look at your book. Another area is just with regards to those speakers in finding them more stages, doing those submissions for, RFPs, which are your requests for proposals to speak, doing the research to find the best places where your ideal clients are, and then booking that outreach to speaker bureaus if you're at a certain level. I don't recommend speaker bureaus for anyone that's below the 10K per speech environment. But for some of my clients, it is a very good place to put your information as just another place to be searched. In this world of everybody just going out and Googling, you want your name to pop up hundreds of times. And the more you're out there, the better. And then the last area that we really do a lot of work in is the social media management. I've got some really prolific writers, but they don't have the time to take those articles or books and create tweets to drive people to go take a look at them. And so we create posts and share across all the different platforms and really try to target your ideal audience so that you can grow your presence in social media, because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, business is being done in social media.
I think you're absolutely right. So it's interesting because I'm looking at your media one sheet right now, and I see that you list Twitter as one of your social media platforms, how important is it to be on several social media platforms, or should you choose just one or two? Since you're doing this and you have such a large background in working with these top 100 thought leaders, I'll pick your brain a little bit about some of that, because obviously if you were working with the top 100 thought leaders as they built their businesses, you were witnessing and learning some key things that help them to either rise up to that level or to maintain that level. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Tell me what you learned about that social media background, and maybe offer our audience a few tips on what they should be doing.
Sure. With regards to social media, you need to be on all the platforms. Now, if you are a corporate speaker or you deal with corporate type clients, you want to focus on LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're more a personal trainer or personal type coach or, meditation, there's all sorts of different kinds of coaching. Those would probably be primarily on Facebook and Instagram. And get this, Pinterest is the number 2 search engine in the world. Who knew, right? Before I became really involved in the social media world, I considered Pinterest, where women went and pinned things for their next, redo of the room or something along that line. No. Pinterest is business. And it is one of the biggest search engines there is. So I say you need to be on all of them. I am on all of them. And yet I focused based on where my clients are. And I actually focus I actually focus most on LinkedIn and Facebook. I have people, just as I tell my clients, I have a person that does my Instagram and Pinterest who's absolutely amazing with graphics. And so I use her to do that side of my business. I'm more the content person. She is my graphics person. And so I just hand everything over to her with regards to posting on those 2 platforms. But you need to be on all of them. And don't listen to those companies that say they're going to get you to 5,000 followers in the next month. Baloney. It takes time. And my best piece of information for those starting out is, who is that icon in your field that you'd like to be when you grow up? That person that you look up to. Follow them on all their social media platforms. And when appropriate, comment with authentic and useful information. And not only will that icon notice you, but so will their hundreds of thousands of followers. But I want you to realize it takes time to grow that following. I mean, unless you have something that literally goes viral and so everybody gloms on at once, it takes a lot of time to grow your presence. But that's the number 1 tip. Follow the icon that you want to be and make authentic and useful comments on their posts.
That's gold right there, because and that also can work in the Amazon with making comments about different authors.
Yes.
Because I've done that, and I've actually gotten the attention of the authors, and they'll write to you and say, "Oh, thank you for that review," or whatever the comment was. So you're absolutely right. And I love that, because just the other day, I was looking at some different podcasts and saying, okay, if I want to be like that person, how could I do it? And how can I get their attention? And you just gave, right there, the keys to the kingdom right there is that you go and you follow someone and make useful comments and keep showing up consistently. That's another thing I think that's important is consistency over all of this, because people seem to jump from one thing to another. With your speakers, when you were talking about getting on stages and getting on platforms, what type of research do you do when you're looking for speaking opportunities for yourself or for your authors?
Well, when I get a new client and they want to be on more, stages and being able to get their message out, we first have a very detailed conversation as to who their ideal client is, what their message is. Many of them know, oh, I want to be on this stage or that stage someday. So I sometimes work backwards, but I also always read their book so I get to understand what their voice is, so that when I do that research, I have a much better understanding of their message and what they want to accomplish. I am not a booking agent or a speaker bureau myself, but what I do is a very detailed search for conferences where your ideal client will be, attending. And if you're up on stage, whether you're getting paid or not, if you have, a room full of ideal clients, you're going to make some sales from the stage, and it's well worth your while to do the speaking gig for free. And this is something that I really, really want to make clear for those of you that want to get out on stages. Take every speaking gig that is offered to you, free or honorarium, whatever. Do it. It not only allows you to practice your message, but it puts you in front of a clientele that you may want for them to buy your coaching program or whatever it is that is your offering. Or even if it's just your book, because you can do book sales in the back of the room. You can, here's another one for authors. If given the opportunity, you do have to ask, but you can do a raffle and have everybody put their card into the fishbowl, and you raffle off 3 of your books for free. So in that fishbowl, you've now got 100 cards in there, and you obviously do it right then and there and give the 3 books out, but you've gone home. You get to go home now with 100 business cards to input into your system.
That you can give to your VA.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Well,
there you go. Because, I'll tell you, that's one of the things I don't do anymore. As we said, I'm over 60. And by about the 5th card, my eyes are going buggy. I can't do it anymore.
And I have been one of those people who I've taken every speaking opportunity that I could get. And you're absolutely right. I come home and I'll have all of these leads, business cards, or I'll have my free gift form that I had everybody fill out, for my free gifts. And then all of a sudden there I am trying to input all of this information. Or I recently went to an event and I input all of the things, and then I got back maybe 15 or 20 of them where I checked and I input the right information, but they got kicked back. The emails got kicked back. So who knows?
It might have gone into their spam if it was a blast with, too many people in it. Because a lot of people will block those kind of messages if there's if you've, put it out to 100 people all at the same time.
Right. So
I actually put notes on the back of business cards as to what we talked about, so that depending on how many I get. Now, if I come back, or if my client comes back with 500, we obviously can't do that. But if you come back with 20 cards, you can do your email, your basic email, but personalize each and every one of them so they know that you remember who they were. And so there's a level of authenticity that's very, very important.
That brings up a good point. Authenticity, being authentic. So, for example, just like what we said, if we're going to be working with a virtual assistant, what part of that process should be delegated? And I'm starting to think, obviously, the part about inputting all the names into a list, but how do you make those decisions about what should you retain so that you are being authentic and real with these people, and what should you be handing over, and how do you make that decision?
Again, it's all about authenticity. So the message will always come, if it's from me, it will always come from me. No one else writes my emails. However, I also I don't have a funnel. You'll see that if you go to my website. But I don't have a funnel. I'm not trying to sell anything other than our services. And so I'm at a point now where about 95% of my business comes from referrals. So for me personally, that's not a big deal. If you have a whole funnel in place, you've got MailChimp or whatever your software application is. But I'm a big believer in personalizing things. And when I see an email where it says, "Dear, Lorianne," and then within the first paragraph, it's supposed to say Lorianne again, and it just says name. I dump those immediately. I'm also, and I think people will get a giggle, I am the queen of downloading everybody's freebies.
Me too.
I hate the next 5,000 emails that I get from them. So that's why if you go to my website and you download my white paper, which is the top 10 ways to get creative, to get massive growth in your speaking business, you just download it. You do not have to give me your email. You are not in my funnel. But if you find that you like what is being said and you need help doing it, then we're here. But I will not follow up with you. You will not be bugged by me. That's a karma thing that I just am not going to change. And so far it's worked for me just fine.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said that some types of businesses don't lend themselves to a funnel situation. And I think that many times people in general, we're all out there like let's say I want to be a speaker, and you even said it, take every speaking opportunity you can, whether or not it's paid or not, because there's many ways to get paid by speaking, and it might not be that someone writes you a check, but it could be in another way. But there's all of these gurus, and they're saying, do it this way, create all these funnels. And I've seen some of those funnels and with, the, what are they, the schematic that they do. I can't think of the right word because I hate those where, they show the funnel and all of the arrows and stuff. I mean, you have to be very left.
And if they answer this way, then we go to this one. And if they don't answer, we send them this one. And
it's so complicated when it's like, hey, you want what I have? Come here. I'll give it to you for this price.
Exactly.
And that's the way that many of us would like to do business. It's like, I have what you want. Here's the price. Let's go for it. And,
right.
Have good value. And I think that's, again, it's interesting because, you said, look, I was, 60 years old and I got laid off and I found that nobody wanted to hire me in the, corporate world. And I've had the same situation, but I'm happily, I believe at this point, unemployable by any type of corporate entity. Like I can't even imagine. Could you imagine working at, we have a store here called Publix, and I think in California it'd be Ralph's.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going and for 8 hours I just cannot imagine that being my life. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, I just couldn't do it. I would much rather, be on that stage. And the cool thing I think about what you bring as a virtual assistant company is that you have all those years of professional experience so that somebody could say, hey, Lori, here, you and your team handle this for me so that I can focus on this. And like you said, as the owner of the company, you should be writing your content and speaking in your voice, but you shouldn't be typing in the emails.
Right. Right. And there are, you will get to a point where there will be a VA or whatever, as long as he or she is with you for a good long time, that can take your generic message and personalize it based on the notes on the back of a business card to each and every person, if that's the way you want to do it. It all depends on how many are going out. It also depends on the size of your organization. I mean, my goodness, if you have a whole marketing department, let's face it, they're doing all your,
yes,
all of that. And so there's a level that I hope those people, whether they're the top speakers out there right now, that I hope are keeping an eye on what's going out as their message. Which is why when I first work with a client, even my tweets, I will send them the list to say, does this look okay? Because until I know that I've got their voice, and there are some that I've been doing it for over a year now, and they still want to see it just because. And I actually respect that because it is going out as their name,
Right.
It is going out with their message, and they need to be okay with what I create. So I don't get, I have no, ego involved in if they want to see it or not see it.
Well,
So,
I think everyone should. I mean, if your name's on it, you better, it probably behooves you to at least look at it.
Exactly.
And to say, yeah, that's what I want. Most of the clients I work with, because I do a lot of press services,
Mm-hmm.
and I always have them review it and make sure that it's, even though it may be something that we've done many, many times, it's always good because you never know. I want to change that now.
Right, exactly.
So, Lorianne, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, what would you suggest is the best way?
Oh, you can go right onto my website, which is just www.lvsconsultingservices.com. It's just my initials.
Okay.
So,
consultingservices.com.
right. There's a connect button. You can call me. You can download that white paper. It's right on the home page. Very simple. And then if you go into the more section up on the top, there's a whole online store of things that you can take a look at the packages that we have to offer.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, that's really great. So before I let you go, is there one last little gold nugget you'd like to offer?
I'm trying to think what might be good. I'll tell you one. As you, let's say you're getting a book out to market, whether you do this yourself or you have someone do this, create about 100 tweets for that book. And it will drive, if you keep those going out on a daily basis, it will keep the momentum going into Amazon to go purchase your book. If your book is being purchased from your website, do that. But we will go ahead and create 100 tweets for any book that is done as well.
So how many tweets would you send out a day for each book?
It depends on how many followers you have and what's happening. I have authors that tweet, but they have various things they're tweeting about, various different articles and whatnot. I don't know that I'd go more than twice if it's all about just one book. Twice a day for the book. But I would also include other tweets. And here's another piece of information. Do you know that on Twitter, only 1% of tweets are retweeted?
Wow.
Therefore, if you go in and back into that icon that I was talking about earlier, if you go in and retweet their tweet and say, oh my God, such great information from so-and-so, tag them, make sure you tag them, you're going to be seen. And all of us like to have our tweets retweeted. So there's that last piece of info for you.
Right there.
Retweet. It can also be a quid pro quo for you because if you're doing it for them, they may do it for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lorianne VAUGHN Speaks. And again, Lorianne, I love your last name. I mean, that's such a great name for someone who is who is a speaker, who helps speakers and authors. And it's, boy, you gave us some really good gold nuggets. And I think that people should definitely come back and re-listen to this podcast so that they can write down all of the gold, because we covered everything from here's some tips for authors and podcasters and messengers, as well as your business model about helping the different women in varying stages and I firmly believe that we all should be giving each other a hand up. And if you need to work from home, you should be able to work from home, because there's no reason why, as long as you have your computer and your internet and whatever the tools of your trade are, because it could be something different, why you can't work from home so that you can do other things that you need to do, because it's just the reality of the world. So everyone, again, go to lvsconsultingservices.com, get Lorianne's free white paper, you can connect with her there. And again, Lorianne, I really appreciate the time you took with me today. It was really fun talking with you.
I so enjoyed it, Tammy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.